Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Stakeholders call for urgent court upgrades in Manchester. Residents in sections of St. James and St. Thomas appeal for water. And later in sports, postponed JPL quarter-final playoff matches to be played this evening at Sabina Park. Thank you for joining us. I'm Amoy Harriet. Now for the details. Despite progress in Manchester's court system, key stakeholders are raising red flags over ongoing infrastructure and security concerns, calling for urgent attention from the Ministry of Justice. Shane Masters explains.
While highlighting notable improvements in Manchester's court system, members of the judiciary and other key stakeholders are voicing concerns about persistent challenges that continue to affect court operations.
Well, look, the James Warehouse Plaza cannot hold. There is insufficient parking, and therefore we cannot house everything there. So we have taken the court to the people. We have taken our court offices to the people. So if it is the first time you're hearing it now, I would like for you to spread the message that you can deal with your matters within the office time, at the police stations, at the outstations, not during the court's time, but on separate days, so you can get served.
Noted attorney Peter Champagny also expressed concern about cramped spaces.
Circumstances where the courts are being held, and that is not just in relation to the parish court for Manchester here, but also the circuit court. In these circumstances is absolutely ridiculous and shameful. We cannot continue to operate like this, and it creates an environment where there are safety concerns, security concerns, and it is something that I think is impatient of debate in terms of a relocation.
Although plans were previously drawn up for a state-of-the-art justice complex in Kingsland, those proposals have since been shelved. Now, President of the Manchester chapter of the Lay Magistrates Association, Dr. Wendell Freckleton, says that plan must be revisited.
A few years ago, 40 acres of land was pledged by Alpart to host a proper justice center. And I call really on the Minister of Justice to consider using that space where we can have a proper solution to this problem. The plans at that time, I remember the Ministry of Justice spending quite a bit of money on those plans. And
a new proposed site has been identified along Bromelia Road, a mile from the town centre. But Chairman of the Manchester Municipal Corporation, Donovan Mitchell, has repeated his objection to situating the court at that location, noting it's a residential area. Both Mr. Mitchell and Dr. Freckleton were speaking at the inaugural Judiciary Day jointly organised by the Manchester Parish Court and the Manchester Family Court. Shane Masters, TVJ News.
St. James is showing signs of a major turnaround in its fight against crime, with a noticeable reduction in murders since the start of the year. The latest figures presented at a recent meeting of the municipal corporation point to the impact of heightened police operations and growing community collaboration in driving down violent crime. Details in this report.
St. James in recent times has been turning the tide as it relates to the number of murders committed in the parish. It's a sign that the increased targeted operations by the police are seemingly working to rid the parish of criminal elements. At the latest meeting of the St. James Municipal Corporation, the figures up to May 8 were presented.
Well, 19 murders have been reported across the parish of St. James, and this compares to 55 for the same period last calendar year. There have been 24 shootings so far compared to 50 for the same period as of today's date. However, for accusation crimes, we have seen an uptick. There have been 14 robberies compared to 9 for the same period last year. Aggravated assaults, there have been 7 reported, which is a very marginal increase of 6 for the same period last year. Break-ins to date, there.
Superintendent Mercedes Curry says while there has been the marked reduction in major crimes, the police are still not sitting idly by.
Since the 1st of May, we have launched Operation Storm 2, which have seen an increase in our operational output across the division. And so far, we have had 16 major operations across the division of St. James.
Now, one firearm and a large amount of ammunition were seized in one of the operations in Cambridge on May 2. Superintendent Curry says the reduction is also due to increased collaboration between citizens and the police. Chairman of the corporation, Richard Vernon, also praised the efforts of the citizenry in getting the level of murders down in the parish by providing information to the police.
And a very good city. I said it last year and I keep repeating it. When I said that Montego Bay will be one of the safest cities in the Caribbean, persons came out strong and say, I'm a madman. It was rather disheartening that persons would think that, because we are talking about where we live. We're talking about where we live, and they lack that confidence to be bold and to stand up and say that their city will be the safest. But I'm happy that today we set the target and we are working assiduously to achieve it.
Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Still in St. James, disruption in Norwood after residents took to the streets in protest, appealing to the National Water Commission for water. The community members say it's been years since they last received consistent supply in their pipes.
What do you need?
Water!
When do you need it?
Now!
A frustrated group of residents outside Norwood Meadows on Thursday. They have a grievance against the National Water Commission NWC, who they say cut off their supply several weeks ago and to this day hasn't restored it. And this isn't the first time.
Most of the homeowners here, they have a tank on their houses, but the tanks are empty. And when we ask Water Commission to truck water to us, they are telling us that their equipment, their truck is down, it's out of commission. And so people have to pay a whopping $14,000 or a whopping $10,000 per tank to ride for the water supply. We are all paying customers, and I know that we will be getting a bill at the end of this month. You understand? And with that said, we need water.
Interestingly, this was in May 2023. Minister with responsibility for water, Matthew Samuda, during a tour of Norwood, reviewed that a water supply system was being established, which he said would provide improved and reliable access to potable water for residents in the area. Fast forward exactly 2 years later.
Exam time now, CXC is ongoing. Children need to go to school. They need to bathe. Parents need to wash their uniforms. They need to cook for them. So it's a big hassle. Right next door is the Zozo camp. We have how many soldiers next door? And that is a big health issue. We need the water, and we need the water to stay. We just don't want NWC to bring back the water today, and when we get up tomorrow morning, there is no water in our pipes.
Me can't go to buy my toilet for $40,000 and we take up water through night because the water not even clean up through my toilet. Believe me. Yeah man, no joke about it. Me not through no night. Me parachute more than through that dirty water in my toilet.
Jamaica wood and water, we shouldn't have this a problem here, so. And this go on in this community, when I bring it back in the 80s and 90s again, after we go through that already. Now man, now at 2025, we need water.
Now we contacted Acting Corporate Public Relations Manager at the NWC, Delano Williams, who said a statement was being prepared, but up to news time, we didn't get a response. Meanwhile, over in St. Thomas, a similar situation. Residents of New Road in Yalas are appealing to the authorities to address the long-standing issue of lack of water. They say this issue arose since the start of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project.
It's been on and off. We could have worked with the on and off story, but from March start, no water. Over 2 months, no water. Me have a husband lay down on him back. One side of him dead. Him have to bathe 2 times a day. We have to clean him up. and no water to clean him up. If somebody not come from other part of the area and carry water come give me and stick me a walk with me can't carry water.
While the NWC has been trucking water to affected residents, the people argue it has been inconsistent.
I saw an NWC truck, I think 3 weeks ago, and I told them my name, and he's saying that they got a list, and if my name is not on the list, I will have to purchase the water.
Now, in response, acting PR manager at NWC, Delano Williams, says the agency will look into the complaints about the inconsistent trucking of water. Renewed calls this afternoon for parents and guardians to get more involved in their children's school life to improve their educational development. Now, the appeal comes on the heels of Child Month and just days after Teachers' Day. Now, parents at the Mount Moreland Primary and Infant School in St. Catherine, who hosted a treat for staff members earlier this week, say gone are the days when teachers would be solely responsible for the academic development of students.
I know it's not an easy job for them, so we have to help them to help the children.
A lot of schools have difficulty with parents giving back to the school and ensuring that they provide the kind of support for the school system, which is really necessary. And I encourage it that across Jamaica, parents, wherever you are, your child is attending a school, be a part of the school community, be a part of the community, the school's life, and ensure that it progresses and grows.
And this, they believe, might be one of the solutions to the rapid teacher migration.
And you know, like, oh, so many of the teachers now are migrating, looking at better paying job. And we see these 1 year sticking this hilly terrain. We are very pleased and overwhelmed to see to it that every class have a well-loved, well-trained and well-organized teacher. We love them for that. We lift our hats to them.
And it's now time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. The University of Technology UTech and a family is this afternoon seeking the public's help in locating a missing student. Missing is Anissa Dilworth, a student of pharmaceutical technology. Now, anyone with information on Miss Dilworth's whereabouts is being asked to contact her family at 876-878-4049, the school, or the nearest police station. And it's now time for the Business Minute.
$9 billion in offers from investors for the $2.2 billion it wanted to borrow to help fund this year's budget. The ministry issued a 90, 182, and 271-day treasury bills. It says investors submitted $3 billion for the $700 million it wanted to borrow with a 90-day bill. Further, investors submitted $3.2 billion for the $700 million it wanted from the 182-day bill. Now, investors submitted $2.8 billion for the $800 million it wanted from the 271-day bill. The average interest rate paid on the 90-day and 182-day bills was 5.5% per year, while that for the 271-day bill was 5.6% per year. Further afield, Chinese exports to the U.S. tanked last month as President Donald Trump's tariffs took effect. Outbound shipments to the U.S. fell off 21% compared to April 2024. Meanwhile, China's overall exports last month grew by more than 8% in terms of U.S. dollars. The stronger-than-expected performance was due to a surge in Chinese exports to countries in Southeast Asia and Europe. The U.S. has at least a 145% tariff on most Chinese imports. China responded with a 125% tariff on most incoming U.S. goods. For the Business Minute, I'm Shane Masters.
And time now for a look at some of the major stories from around the world.
In the region, stakeholders in Guyana sugar industry are raising concern over the low production levels. The Guyana Sugar Corporation's 2025 production to date shows total output of less than 15,000 tons, or less than half of its projection. There are no clear plans on how the situation will be remedied. The crops should have ended last month, but this was disrupted by persistent rains. Stakeholders say the current figures will pile pressure on government to defend huge subventions to the industry, which are not translating into higher or efficient production. On the international scene, new Pope Leo XIV has called the Catholic Church to desperately counter a lack of faith in his first Mass at the Vatican. Speaking the day after he was elected as the 267th Pope and first U.S. leader of the Church, he warned that people were turning away from faith and instead to technology, money, success, power and pleasure. The Pope said he had been elected to be a faithful administrator of the Church that would act as a beacon that illuminates the dark night of this world. And those are the top regional and international stories. I'm Carrie Ann Simpson.
Thanks, Gary. We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report.